This is Infection, the survival podcast, recorded live on Wednesday, March the 16th, 2022, episode 374. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to another edition of Infection, the survival podcast. Infection is your source for the latest information on survival video games. My name is Nick Craig. Great to have you here this evening on a Wednesday. You can check out my various social media profiles by visiting nickcraig.com or nickcraig.net. And, of course, our website for this program, infectionpodcast.com. As always, not alone, hanging out in the... Brian, you remember the commercials back in the early 2000s for 5 Gum? You remember that? It would be like, chew 5 Gum. You remember those?
No, they must not have played those.
Well,
I didn't watch a lot of TV back then.
Okay, well, for anybody that has, you kind of look like you're in a 5 Gum commercial with your background.
Oh, the background?
Yeah, so hello, Brian.
I figure I'd try a different image here. I am doing well. And, of course, let's go ahead and get some contact info out here. If you want to get me at Brian Aldridge on Gab, Parler, Getter, whatever all the other ones are, who knows. And if you want to get my blog, biteoftech.com. But of course, go to our website. If you go to infectionpodcast.com, on the right-hand side, you see where it says join our server on Discord. If you do that, you can come and we have a lot of ARC servers that are running right now that people enjoy. So that's one great thing you can do. Also, we've got a politics channel. We've got a news channel. Perhaps there's a topic you think we should be covering that we don't talk about on the show. Just pop a link to that in the chat channel, and we will review that before the live show so that you can give some input to what we actually talk about. If you want to catch the video forms, we do have that on Twitch, YouTube, BitChute, and DLive. And also the audio forms at the lower right. The video forms are live after the fact, but the audio is uploaded when we're done with the show. So if you're wanting to listen, you should be able to by the evening of our show. And then you can follow along with the show notes because those are posted at the same time. And we have links for all the different topics, videos, anything that we refer to, especially if you're an audio listener. Perhaps we talked about something that you wish you could have seen rather than having to scroll through sometimes the whole video to get back to that point. And to see that, what you could do is jump and click on the link directly for that video. So it's a good way to get in there and see some of the things if you are only hearing them. If you want to support us, we do have a support option up top, or you got infectionpodcast.com/support where you can do Prime Gaming subs, Humble Bundle, Subscribe Star, just a lot of different ways that you can help Twitch, the Twitch subs that you'll hear throughout the show go off sometimes. Just different ways that you can support us. And we appreciate those because we are working towards actually having an in-person get together again and maybe do a show live like we've done, all the fun things that we get to do when we meet in person.
Yeah, hopefully PAX revokes some of their nonsensical restrictions and we can get back to some semblance of normal with that. Again, the website, infectionpodcast.com. Oh, Brian, here's something we haven't done in a while. We've got a whole bunch of random news that we've built up over the past couple of weeks. Yeah. It's a bit of a slow news week. You want to go ahead and just see if we can bang a bunch of this stuff out?
Yeah, let's talk really quickly about a study that was done in the UK. Because when I was your age and a little bit before, computer science was like the field to get into in college. I mean, short of you wanting to go for something really specific, like maybe become an attorney or a doctor, it seems like everybody was trying to learn how to code or get in some sort of tech field because the pay was good. It was a growing industry. There's a study that confirms that computer science is the least popular UK science. Now, of course, this is from PC Gamer, so they're going to put in a little bit of politics here too, from their perspective. It's also, they talk about how it's a subject that outweighs females 6-1 with males.
Well, that's not.
So this,
but that's not.
That's how it's always been.
Yeah, but that's not. The only reason for that is that it tends to attract more men than women. For example, I mean, I don't see PC Gamer writing an article about how the guy who picks up my trash is a guy and not a girl. That doesn't seem. I would be interested to see what the breakdown is on that, or the sanitation worker, or whatever it might be.
And one thing they're trying to do
is missing.
Is they're trying to make it seem more. Give more of an incentive. They said they're trying to make it seem more attractive.
Well, they've done that. I mean, they've been promoting STEM, at least here in the United States, STEM for women for the last since I was in middle school and high school. It comes down to, hey, maybe Brian, here's a novel concept. Maybe women just aren't as interested in sitting in front of a computer and programming like a dude is. Maybe that's
some will do it. Some maybe are happy doing it. But you know what? The one thing that we hate to accept is that there are genetic differences between males and females. I know that's hard to hear.
No,
but,
take that back. We're going to get banned off Twitch.
There are
such a bigoted statement.
There are genetic differences between males and females. I know, a shocking statement for Twitch. But, you know, that is true. And maybe those genetic differences are things that have adapted over thousands and thousands of years to where we're a little bit different now. I mean, I know this is crazy, especially if you're someone who claims science and you believe all this, yet is unwilling to accept that, okay, you're saying evolution caused this all 100%, yet you want to say we're all identical right now? How does that fit? If we formed by evolution and we're only here because we've changed over time, yet you want to claim that there's no difference between any of us genetically, then how did we get here from the monkey you claim we came from, right? Without having differences. Because am I the same as a monkey? No. There are genetic differences. I look different. I feel different. And even if I claim that I feel like a monkey, I look like a monkey, I am not a monkey. You can say whatever you want, but, you know, women, you're not going to change if it's genetic, if it's anything dealing with that, you're not going to change it just by saying it. It could be something that's more than that. It could be something that is just a mentality thing. You know, I think it is more than that. I think that, you know, women, even the generations of raising children and the focus that goes into that, I just think their mentality is different, and it could be a level greater than just teaching them to be different.
Yeah. Well, and also to go back to it, outside of the gender disparity in which this article tends to highlight, the reason it might also be a little less popular right now, Brian, is because of outsourcing. And there is no question about it that currently, and I think computer science has really broadened its scope over the last decade or so. I have a computer science degree. It's an associate's, but it's still a computer science degree. And I feel like that probably has broadened out over the past couple of years, where it's not quite as I don't know exactly how I would describe it. I just don't feel like it is quite the degree that it was 20 years ago. It's a very different era. There's a lot of areas to it. Yeah.
Well, and it's kind of becoming, used to be computer science. Like when you went to go study computer science, you were getting down to an incredible level of detail.
Machine language.
Math. Yes. Okay. I can give you the perfect example. I did computer science twice in my life. I did my computer science back in the year 1998, 99. I think I started in the
year
fall
after
of 98, 99.
I was 1 year old. You know, that's what I was doing.
You were 1 year old. We were here for 1 year old. But I started computer science back then at Boise State, and I did 3 years. I didn't want to do programming back then, but I did 3 years there. I did Calc 2. I did all the stupid stuff because I didn't want to do English or some other something that were, you know. So it was stupid. But I didn't have to do any math in my new college, which was great. You know, but back then you would learn Calc 2. You would learn, that was getting into it. That wasn't even in your final years. It seems like nowadays they've come up with more tiers of it, because then you were electrical engineering, computer science, which meant programming, or, you know, then you went into something else. Nowadays, you've got so many tiers of it where you have a lower tier that you have a degree you can get where you're not going to be making that much money. And then you have these upper tiers that you go in. And so I think now it's just, computer science doesn't mean what it used to mean, where it was a high-paying job. It was a lot of work. Nowadays, people go, and I graduated computer science. Okay, so you got a 2-year degree, right? Doing something. That's very different than 15 years ago going and getting your 4-year degree, which then you would also maybe get a 6.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you can go and get an associate's degree and then go work at an MSP, a managed service provider, and you're not going to be probably lighting the world on fire in terms of salary, because that is typically a very just broad generalizations. I worked at an MSP. For me, it was a very entry level job. It allowed me to get my feet wet in a lot of different areas, but it is definitely
different things, see different areas.
Yeah, it was amazing, all the different technology I had to play with, but it was not it wasn't that. So interesting study there. You can check.
Well,
out
here,
the,
I want to read one more little. I want
sorry.
to read one more little section, kind of that they pointed out, and then we'll
Yeah.
go on. So the why does it matter how many females choose to study IT? I just wanted to point this out. They say the work's still getting done, right? The problem arises because teams that develop, say, the use of AI in medicine or algorithm that affect our financial lives or employment chances need to be diverse to ensure outcomes and fair and relevant to everyone in society. Okay, now here's where it's going. A fair point, though, the binary nature of these particular results does have me wondering how representative the numbers might be of a wider spectrum of genders. Either the study only gave participants the option of male or female, or there's this distinct lack of trans, non-binary, and other genders permeating the space.
Okay, yeah,
that's what they're really getting at with this article.
Yeah. All right. Well, I have no other comments. I think the article pretty well explains itself. It has absolutely nothing to do with computer science.
It has to do with getting representation.
Exactly. Steam Deck. Here's an interesting one, Brian. Apparently, the box that the Steam Deck ships in is a little too cool looking, and that has caused a plethora of thefts as these devices sit on people's front porches. Package theft is already incredibly popular, and now, I guess because of the box that the Steam Deck is in, has a logo on it that's got, it says fragile electronics, and it is apparently a little bit more eye-catching for somebody that might be trying to steal something off of your porch. A giant lithium battery, fragile, and a logo stamped on the front, which essentially gives away that it is an expensive piece of technology. Nondescript packaging could potentially be an issue for Valve, but there's obviously nothing that they can really do, and they're not going to change their box. I mean, that's, porch squatting is not.
Well, a lot of these are already in warehouses ready to ship out. So, them pulling all those and redoing it is not worth, they'd have to decide, is it worth more just replacing the ones that get stolen?
Yeah.
That's probably cheaper than them going and redoing the packaging of every single box.
Yeah.
And that's probably what they'll do.
Precisely. Another kind of random, Humble Bundle digital storefront, Brian, is losing all of their EA published titles. As code purchases from the service will be expiring soon, and it appears that EA is going to be gone. Battlefield, Titanfall, anything published by EA is going to drop off of the platform.
So if you have unredeemed ones, right? Is that what they're saying? You need to redeem them now before they expire?
Yeah, so you've got until March 18th, so you've got 2 days to go ahead and redeem your EA Origin keys.
But these are in the Origin launcher, right? Isn't this going away?
Yeah, but the Origin launcher will eventually get sucked into
so you still may want to claim the game, so
you still want to claim
then it'll get pulled into, and you'll maybe have two versions of a game on two different services.
Yeah, I would highly recommend that you just purchase it to get it on your account and then figure out what the process looks like to pull that stuff over to Steam or wherever it's going to be. So that's what's going on with that. Quick note, make sure you log into your Humble Bundle account if you've got Origin games that are not claimed. Brian, you probably have got about 200.
I know. I was thinking about that. I have to go in there and actually redeem those things now.
Yeah, so you've got 2 days to get that done. So set an alarm. March 18th at 5 p.m. Pacific is the cutoff for that. What else do we have in some little bit of random here?
Well, okay, let's talk about just a quick little announcement. Elite Dangerous, a game that we've all played. It is a fun game. It is a time consumer. If you have a lot of free time, you're like, I wish I had a game that ate up all my free time. Bam, there you go. Play Elite Dangerous. But they are canceling all console development. I'm kind of wondering, we've been talking about this for months now, about the console not being a needed thing anymore. They can make a Windows version of the game and release it under the Xbox Store and stream it, and it will be, how a lot of the people are now consuming their games in the Game Pass. So I think it's going to be a big difference.
I'm sure that plays into some of it. Early on when we talked about this, Elite Dangerous is not a console game. The idea that you would have
too many controls.
Brian, too many controls is an understatement. I mean, when I was playing this game, I had to have a freaking piece of paper thumbtacked to my
with
wall
all the
in
different
front of me with all the stupid damn commands. So you're not talking about just a couple of hotkeys. I mean, literally the entire game only works with all of these random ass. I had a tablet using the not Mad Cats or Razor Cat software to do different things that hooked up. I mean, no, this is not a console game. I'm sure what you said plays into it, but I also believe that this was not a game that would have been.
The thing is, they've been promising
playable.
this. They keep saying they've been promising, and I bet that as they tried to make it playable and realizing, there may not be a huge desire, because when you get in there and really start playing it, they'd have to simplify everything so much. It wouldn't be the same game. The people that are really into the kind of emulation part of it, that have the special controllers and the whole setup, their chair set up the certain way,
the yokes,
those people
the
would be
pedals.
pissed if you start. Oh yeah. If you start simplifying that to where that's not really even needed anymore, like those people are going to be pissed, because they want it to feel like, all right, I'm taking off the ship. Okay, I've got to raise it up. I'm putting, doing all the dials, doing all this stuff. People are really into that. They're putting themselves in there. Well, in this one, so they promised it since the Frontier. And then they said, okay, well, we got to put that on delay because we got to finish Frontier. And then, it was supposed to be an Odyssey. And it's just each time they've pushed it off, saying, but I think they're focusing for their release to, I guess, final. I assume that's what this is kind of pushing at.
How far could they possibly be away from that? May 2021 is when Odyssey's release is coming out. Well, Brian,
so
May 2021
I'm assuming that a lot of this.
Year.
Yeah, so Odyssey release, it was May 21. And they said that they were going to be working on that experience. Sorry, I would say Odyssey's release was May 2021.
Gotcha, okay.
So they said after they got it stable, that they would do that. But then it said it's over the last several months, we've been wrestling with the best way to move forward on it. And they said, came to a heavy heart that they decided to cancel all of that. We need to be able to move forward with the story of the game. And in order for us to do that, we need to focus on a single code base.
Yeah, and that is an important thing to note, a single code base, because they would essentially have to make a vanilla, stripped down version of the game for console. Not even from a control standpoint, from a technical and visual standpoint, there was not a chance in hell that this game is running on at least, it might run on the most top of the end next-gen hardware, but it's not running on the Xbox One. And a lot of games are coming out or running on both. And, I guess, while I'm sure some people might be disappointed, I would much rather, and I am not a player of the game, so take that for what it's worth, but I would much rather not have it than to have a really crappy kind of rip-off experience on the console.
Well, in part, do they have any other games, any other that are on console? Because I'm trying to think of their games. They have Elite Dangerous, Planet Coaster, which I don't remember being on console. The Jurassic World series. I don't remember really them being on console. I'm wondering if their engine, because this is an internal built engine, they may have been trying to get it to where it's like adapted and working perfectly on a console. Maybe they just decided it's too much work right now to be doing that, coming up with getting their engine to work, with the newest PlayStation 5 and Xbox and all of this. That's where I would think a big problem would come in too, is they're trying to develop the engine to be able to support the console, along with then developing their game in it.
Yeah. So, they're canceling all future console content update, because they did release some version on the console.
I think it was like test versions, but I don't think they had everything there. And it wasn't performing.
The last version they released, it was Elite Dangerous Horizons in 2015 was the last console version. So
and they put out so much content since then.
Yeah.
Because I remember when we went, what year did we go and interview them?
2016. I think
2016. So remember, right after that was when they started doing all like the alien stuff that was coming out, and
that's when they first started building all the
stuff where you're on the. Yeah, so it's like they thought about doing it on console, started adding a story, and then now they've realized they cannot do both at the same time and release something that people are going to want to play.
Very true.
So, it's fine with me. If you do something well, do it well. Quit trying to be what everyone else is. If your game is primarily a simulation game that works best on PC, make it for that and do it the best. Quit trying to simplify your controls, because guess what? If you lose your core audience, now how successful they are, you'd have to really say they're almost so emulation that I think it hinders them. People, it's hard for them to get into it. They'd be giving up some for the other. I think if they did simplify it a little bit, it would still be fun. Maybe put 2 different modes eventually. A simple control mode and then elite dangerous mode.
Well, I
where
think
then you
that's
have
what
a little
they're.
bit of everything.
I think that's what they're trying to not have happen, is have to manage two code bases and essentially
That'd be the
two
only
different
way
games.
to happen.
Yeah, agreed completely. Well, interesting.
All right. Yeah, so that's elite dangerous. I wish I had more time, and I would try playing it, but I just don't have time.
Me too.
So also there was an incident where there was a cybersecurity incident at Ubisoft. Now, that was last week. They're saying that they show no evidence of a data breach.
Yeah,
So
we haven't heard that before.
So, I don't know if they're trying to make us feel better, but it says last week Ubisoft experienced a cybersecurity incident that caused temporary disruption to some of our game systems and services. Our IT teams are working with leading external experts to investigate the issue. As a precautionary measure, we initiated a company-wide password reset. Also, we can confirm that all our games and services are functioning normally. So something happened. They don't know exactly from what it looks like. The incident sounds small, but I'm usually more concerned because we've had the CD Projekt Red. We had a couple others in the last weeks and months that have had some pretty big hacks where things are being released and everything is happening. So
NVIDIA just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, NVIDIA was. So I'm more concerned of, sure, they saw a downtime. What was happening there that they haven't? And if there's very little indications of what happened, that usually indicates there was a pretty well experienced hacker, let's say. Someone who knows what they're doing, or a group. You've got governments right now because of the wars going on that are trying to do these sort of things. I wonder if we'll see here in a month or two a leak for Ubisoft, that dumps a bunch of information on these things. It's getting harder and harder to be in these type of industries just because there's so much that can just destroy you instantly in these companies. Just look at all the cybersecurity stuff they have to do to keep from people constantly stealing everything they have.
Well, and kind of on an unrelated note, it was a local story here last week, Brian. A local government was hit with an email phishing campaign that was spoofing contractors that work for this local government, and sending emails and saying, "Hey, we've got a new routing number," and the county paid out $4 million to this group. And that is one thing, but then you're also talking about data, things getting stolen. At the end of the day, this all comes down to users. Most of these problems are between the chair and the keyboard, with users clicking on things they shouldn't. Somebody does something they shouldn't do. The idea that somebody is quote unquote hacking, like you're sitting there with your password generator and your Matrix screensaver, no. You're sending out a direct phishing campaign. You're targeting departments like the financial departments or whatever, where you've got your less tech-savvy people. Yes, a PEBCAC error, of course. And you're targeting people that might not be as technically savvy to get a backdoor into the system. There is no quote-unquote hacking going on here, Brian. Nobody's sitting in the parking lot with ubiquity radios trying to sniff No, none of that is happening. This is users clicking on shit they shouldn't be, and either exposing their domain passwords or some sort of access that's giving them backdoors into file systems, domain servers, whatever, logon servers, whatever it might be. That's where the issue is.
And this is where, like, a company that I do work for right now, they'll send out regular emails that they sit there and try to tailor to look convincing.
Yeah, we do that too.
And they send out those ones, and then they see if they can get you to click it. And then they have a little button for emails that you can click and report. Say, "Oh, congratulations, you caught one that we tried to slip through," which is very smart because they're conditioning people to play the game, right? They're gamifying cybersecurity, which is I think what you have to do. You have to get it where people automatically, out of instinct, make the right decision, because they'll keep adjusting and making tricks to where it almost seems convincing, especially as you said, when they start tailoring it to, all right, the CEO of the company, there's a recent announcement. If they can get information that seems like it's inside information that they can then send an email out with, people say, oh, nobody knows about that yet. Okay, it's got to be legitimate.
Well, and in the case
Right?
of the
Getting
one
people on those.
in the case of the one that happened here in this local town, Brian, the hackers went as far as to purchase a domain that was one letter off from the actual company's domain name. So if you look at the email, just briefly scan it, it's not
Unless
from
you look closely, yeah.
Yeah, it's not a Yahoo or a Hotmail address. It looks like a real domain. I mean, this is very sophisticated, very highly targeted things that are going on. It's very interesting to see.
And this is it's only going to continue as we go more online and everything's remote. That's where I really think a lot of this streaming technology of you no longer have documents on your desktop that you have access to. I think we're going back to terminal. When I started in the industry, we were getting out of terminals. They were getting away from terminals at that point in time, and I was putting in servers and systems to make it to where people had desktops and doing all this. Seems like we kind of realized, ooh, that's dangerous. People having all the files on their desktops and having them in shares they have direct access to, it's hard. And I think that eventually they're going to get to where you are kind of like the internet. You're not directly accessing that server. You have a little portal that's showing you content, right? And then they try to hack past that. I think it's going to get to a terminal type of system, which we're seeing hints. All this streaming technology. I think it's setting it up to where you won't have things in front of you anymore. It'll all be from the cloud, just like you don't have movies in your house anymore, really.
Yeah. Brian, we're about halfway through the show. You want to get into some other news going on?
Yeah. Well, let's just jump into. Let's segue here really quick because there's some hardware changes, but there's been a lot of announcements for some hardware coming out, especially in the gaming. Sure. Micron's a company that we have a big Micron facility here in Boise. I don't know where exactly they were founded. I think they're founded over in Asia, but they've had Micron here for a long, long time, and they have been warning about these chip shortages, and they're saying
headquartered in Boise, Idaho.
Are they? Okay, so they're headquartered here. So I think we have one of the main headquarters of HP was here. Micron, we've got it's a big tech center. There's a lot going on here.
Was founded in Boise, Idaho in 1978. Look at that.
There we go. Yeah, I was wondering because we have a big facility here for it, and I know people that work there.
I just want to remind everybody that Micron is Crucial. That they're the same
Crucial,
company.
yeah.
So Crucial SSDs, Crucial RAM is Micron. So they're not just a chip manufacturer. They also have a retail side.
A lot of people don't know them by Micron, but Micron is a big chip manufacturer.
Yeah.
So they're warning about these shortages, and these price hikes they're saying are still going to come later in 2022. So we're going to have even more price hikes with these chips. Of course, these companies are still talking about putting out more and more chips for us to buy. Intel, for example, is building a new $17 billion chip making facility in Germany, which, as long as we can get the materials to make these things, that's what's been running into. Micron as well. I don't have the article in front of me, but there's another one that I came across. They're building a giant facility, I think I think it's over in Asia somewhere or somewhere else. But they're building another one for Micron that's going to be releasing all these giant chips. AMD just announced that they're releasing this new fastest chip. So there's still all these chips coming out. Of course we can't get video cards still, but let's talk about one thing I saw from Intel was them talking about their streaming service. And I haven't Intel. Have you ever heard of Project Endgame? Have you ever heard about that much?
No, I don't believe I have.
Because I haven't really heard of it. I assume they'd probably be working on something more in the technology space of it. But their huge compute cloud is going to become more accessible to people because it's a PC streaming service. They said that's beyond just gaming. So Intel held their online investor briefing, and they talked about the future of CPUs and GPUs, which we've talked a little bit about here. I mean, GPUs are almost impossible to get the latest things. And they mentioned this Project Endgame, and they speculated that it was a lot like GeForce Now. But now, since they've released this Arc GPU, they put some more information about it.
So Hold on a second,
go ahead.
though, because I've got a question here. I didn't realize Intel had a compute cloud.
I didn't either. That's why I was kind of surprised. I didn't realize that they were doing this.
I always assumed Intel's always been from what I understand, a hardware company, and I did not realize that they had a compute cloud, the likes of Google or Microsoft.
Well, they know they can't compete in the video card space, right? They've lost that.
Well, hold on a second though. I don't necessarily agree with you. I've been reading some stuff about some of the newest Intel processors, and their new built-in APUs are pretty impressive. Now, yes, for right now, AMD with their system like that's powering the Steam Deck, agreed. But they seem to be making some strides towards
if you can get one.
Yeah. So,
but the thing is here, if they can get something that's a medium level chip, right? The things that they kind of built in, they can optimize those to work with streaming services to where it will be hardware accelerated to some point. You will have some sort of acceleration if they can make the streaming service kind of pair with the hardware. And so it makes sense, right? Because they can go around and they're not going to make AMD level GPUs and NVIDIA level GPUs anytime soon, I don't think. But you know what they can do is come up with a chipset that interacts with their service in an optimized way and allows them to quickly transmit video and do everything here.
I have to read this directly from their press release. Okay. It says, what is Project Endgame I heard about? It says, Intel is determined to lower the barrier that can sometimes make PC gaming difficult today. So they're attacking. They're
getting a video card.
Yeah, well, it seems that they're going after the PC gaming market, but why? Intel's got no place in this industry at all. NVIDIA's already got GeForce Now. Steam is rolling out God knows what. Microsoft is doing this. Why? What in the... And by the way, there's already 1,000 companies that offer desktops for streaming. So unless Intel can come in... The only thing they can do is come in... I was going to
say Google is also offering the white labeled service, right?
You're right.
Google is label as the white label.
Google is doing that. The only thing that Intel could do is come in at such a low cost for computer rentals, where you rent hours or whatever on a server in a data center. The only thing they could do is come in at such a low cost that they just cut the knees out from everybody else. But at that point, what's your profit margin going to be? And I still contend that the market for people that are going to rent a server to game remotely is incredibly low. There is a market. I don't think there's any sort of broad appeal in it at all.
Yeah,
from my vantage point. Well, this is a very odd announcement from Intel.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised. And if maybe you don't have to be, what games do we see coming out of this? Because that's where I think a lot of these places don't understand is.
But I don't even think this
is games on these services. People don't want to commit to that.
But see, and I don't even think this is going to be as adept as to what you're thinking, Brian. I don't think we're talking about a streaming service like GeForce Now. I think we're literally talking about renting a desktop in a data center
and be playing your game from that.
That's kind of what it sounds like, and that's what a lot of other companies do. I don't think they're built. I would be dumbfounded if they are releasing a full-fledged streaming system. It seems to me that they're just going to be essentially doing an RDP to some sort of client that is tailored for low latency. Maybe they'll go that far, like Parsec or something like that. But I don't foresee that. They do say that they are planning to take public steps in Q2 of this year. So that could be interesting to see.
One thing also, I saw a little screenshot from their announcement, and it said path to persistent immersive web. So whatever that means, they showed...
I feel like we're back in 2006 and 2007, Brian, where we went through kind of like the
keywords.
Well, just keywords, but like the first internet boom in the 90s was fizzling out, and then everything was like web TV, right? You had Twit and YouTube and all of this screw cable. Here's all this web content. I feel like we're going through every 10 years, we're going through a very similar thing right now with that. But what you just said,
it gets
again,
worse.
It's buzzword.
Everything in 10 years repeats, and it gets maddening because I see the same things. Now I've seen the same things 4 times. It feels like
old man Aldridge.
People are like shocked when it happens. Like, oh my goodness, how did that happen? Okay, well, it happened 10 years ago, happened 20 years ago, And it happened 30 years ago that I remember as well. So yeah, it's probably going to happen again and again and again. It's just how reality works.
Yeah, old man Aldridge yelling at his cloud in his front yard. Get off my lawn. read
Now, and there's
what
some
they said
other.
again. Read the headline from them, or what words they used.
Oh, well, let me get. I got to get that one back up. So the path to persistent immersive web. Now, what do they mean by
Ugh.
persistent immersive? I understand immersive web. You want something that's interactive, persistent, continuous.
Always on.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
that's what I think.
so they're wanting something where you can pretty much just to jump into it, and you've got a box ready to spin up a game at any moment. Right. That's what I see by persistent. You don't have to queue it up. It's ready to
but
run.
this doesn't even sound gaming wise. It says persistent web. It makes me think of some sort of virtual reality thing. Persistent web.
That's what's kind of
Falcon,
confusing
metaverse.
about it is some of the terminology. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. That's probably more where they're going for is they're trying to figure out how to, because how do you really get into this metaverse? If you're only bringing in people that have 30, 60 GPUs and, or 1080s or whatever, that only have like the certain level of GPUs and up to be able to be a part of this, you're going to cutting out a majority. These companies like Facebook and everything are going after your grandma, your cousin, your uncle. They're going after everybody. It doesn't matter what kind of computer they have. I bet you what they're really trying to do is have that device that'll be the next thing up from that whatever device they're using to currently access Facebook and all these other things that will then be able to, at the minimal level, be a part of that. Whatever it is, if you need a computer to go into some virtual world, most computers will not do it right. In the way that you're thinking, because then they'll add in all these things and things are going to be flying everywhere. To have it be a truly in something like a metaverse where you're feeling like you're a part of it, there's got to be a lot of stuff. These video cards are not going to be able to handle that. You're going to have to stream most of that if you're wanting them to play on their phones, play on a Chromebook, things like that. I think that could be a good idea of where this is going, so that they can give you a PC experience from a phone, from a tablet, from whatever you're going to play it on. From your car, if you're going to be playing in one of those, whatever it is. So I think that sounds like, but still they gave so little information and it seems like they're still kind of vague on the exact direction. I think a lot of people are assuming that it's going to be for some form of a gaming streaming service.
Brian, your guess is as good as mine. I have absolutely no idea why the hell Intel would want to jump into this sphere at all, but I mean, more power to them.
Yeah. So there's a lot of action happening. One thing to keep in mind, there's been a new vulnerability for Intel, AMD, and ARM CPUs, a new Spectre variant. That's a vulnerability that's been put out. These are ones that are more at a hardware level. So we've been trying, how do you fix some of these where there are issues with chips, vulnerabilities with chips that are at a hardware level? Like, how do you patch that? Well, what we found is when they're patching that, usually they're losing performance, especially from Intel. Intel was taking, how everybody was talking about how fast Intel chips were? Well, you want to know why Intel was so fast? It's because they cut every corner in the book to make it that fast. And then it all came back to them and bit them when all of a sudden all these shortcuts they were taking caused all these security vulnerabilities on servers. And then they started having to patch them and fix them, and then all the performance cut in half. That was a problem for them. So there's all of these issues. This is where I think we have to still take a step back. They got so hell-bent on let's get chips faster. And AMD and Intel were competing. AMD was, following the rules more and then started getting behind. Well, this should have been caught a lot longer, much longer ago, because this is a huge problem. Look at all the problems that Amazon had. They had all these, I don't remember if it was the Spectre one or if there was a couple that came out about the same time. Amazon, on their compute clouds, they found out that people were able to affect other people's compute clouds because of CPU vulnerabilities. They could actually grab the memory from other servers that weren't even in their virtual instance, right? That's a problem. When you take shortcuts, look at the type of issues you can have. There needs to be oversight, but obviously there's not enough oversight, because look at what Intel was able to get past. And it was finally a research company that kind of broke down their chip and figured out what they were doing. And it was too late at that point. They sold millions of them, and they're in servers around the world. And how are you going to get all those back? You're not, because you don't know every source that they purchased those through. So they patched them and they cut the performance, and everything started going slow. It's like these are the issues of when, this is where I think having them even going to the streaming and cutting back on it, it's going to solve them from having to push this so much. Because if you don't have access to run the code and do all the things in the local environment, this is less of an issue. Where imagine if people figured this out and they started affecting other people's instances on Xbox, game sessions. It's kind of the same thing. You can affect people and you're not supposed to, because they took shortcuts and did put up all the walls because they wanted it to be the fastest chip available on the market. So I don't really have any. I don't have any sympathy for them. I think they deserved what they got.
It's called a trade-off, unfortunately. And sometimes a trade-off
and the trade-off bit them. But you know what? They made money. They sold all those chips.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, yeah, the answer is yes, because sometimes a trade-off works and other times it doesn't. And in this case, while it wasn't great for Intel, they still seem to be doing completely fine. So I don't think
they're fine. And that's kind of the downside. There's no real repercussions for this. Yet we had to deal with so many, and we're not getting the chip we paid for. We're getting one that's like, a quarter of the performance.
Yeah, precisely. Can we talk about Sony for a minute here, Brian?
Oh, yeah.
So,
yes, obviously, I thought this was interesting.
Sony very much trying to play catch up in an extreme way. It's not their fault. It's just that Microsoft has a crystal ball and can figure out exactly what the hell's going on.
It is partially their fault, because look at how Sony has operated for the last 20 years, let's say, right? They have never really tried to, since certain consoles, they weren't really trying to be the fastest. They were trying to win with exclusives. And I just think it was the wrong time.
Well, and that is why the PlayStation 4 absolutely obliterated the PlayStation, that's why the PlayStation 4 absolutely obliterated the Xbox One, because not only did it not look like a stupid hunk of plastic like the Xbox One did,
it had good performance.
It had phenomenal titles when on launch compared to the Xbox.
And the titles were good. Yep.
Yeah, and plus you had issues with Kinect and everything else with Xbox on day one.
Well, and the Red Ring of Death from Microsoft.
Yeah, but the 360 still absolutely obliterated the PlayStation 3.
But I think that the flack from that led up to where after that, PlayStation was kind of considered equal with the 360. I mean, people were usually on one side or the other, but I think there was a period of time where everybody considered the PlayStation better for a while.
Yeah, during the PlayStation
maybe not the
4
game,
era.
but
yeah.
Yeah, but the PlayStation was better, and that's when I really got into it. So I was like, yeah, I like PlayStation. But then, Microsoft adjusted and changed, and their consoles are pretty much little computers. They don't do the Red Ring of Death anymore, and I think they found a better winning path. I think COVID really brought it to pass. Having no available access to hardware.
So as Sony tries to catch up, reportedly, classic gaming will be a, quote, major part of PlayStation's Game Pass rival. This is where we've talked about, this is where Microsoft is really kind of setting themselves up for an unlimited amount of success with Game Pass, with streaming, with licensing. Sony has had an equivalent service, or even still has, but it is very much not up to snuff or up to par with what Microsoft is doing. But apparently they've got a new...
PlayStation Now, isn't that what they call this one?
Yeah, but this is This is a whole new system that's going to be called. Its code name is Project Spartacus, and it is apparently, quote, pretty close to actually launching, Brian, end quote. So we'll see exactly how that works out in terms of a time
do you think this will be just old, like PlayStation 4, PlayStation 3, PlayStation maybe 2 games? I mean, are we looking at like that's what they mean by classic? You can just play a lot of PlayStation 4 ones, but I'm talking about like the ones that don't run on the current.
No,
if there's anything that doesn't run on the current PlayStation, is that what they're going to put on here?
Well, I think it'll be a mix of. I think it'll be a mix of everything, because one of the problems with the old PlayStation service, PlayStation Now, was that it only had those classic PS2 games, which are fun. Don't get me wrong, but you're not going to go out and spend $3.99 on a console and pay a monthly subscription to play Crash Bandicoot. It's just not. It just doesn't make any sense. So this service is going to have 3 options reportedly: Essential, Extra, and Premium. And the pricing is expected to be $10 a month for the Essential, $13 a month for Extra, and $16 a month for Premium. Game Pass currently has a couple of different tiers. The ultimate tier of Game Pass is $11 a month. The PC tier is $8 a month, and the console tier that is not Ultimate is $7.99 a month. That does not include the EA Play service, which I believe is a separate thing on top of that. So the pricing of this is interesting. $16 a month is a shit ton of money for a subscription service.
It better have something competing.
What's it going to have, Brian? What's it going to have? The new Fallout or the new Skyrim?
Yeah.
Oh, the new Call of Duty. Oh, wait, no, it won't have any of those because Microsoft owns all the studios. So I don't know what they're going to have, but I can tell you what, $16 a month is now what they could do is maybe they partner up with EA's gone, maybe Ubisoft, and they put Uplay as part of it. And I don't know if anybody else has got a service where they offer that, but it's going to be interesting to see. Not only can they compete on pricing because Game Pass is so cheaply available
for what you're getting.
Yeah, I don't know. Even for $13 a month, I mean, you're talking about nearly double the cost of Game Pass, depending on the tier that you have. They have to. I don't know what they could possibly provide that would make that service almost twice the amount as Game Pass. It just seems impossible to me.
One thing I'm kind of wondering if this is going to happen. Do you think that we may get to the point where PlayStation games are offered on the Xbox Game Pass?
No.
Let's say it gets to a level where they no longer are producing hardware. There's pretty much just a publisher. Why would they not offer all of their suite of games, kind of like the Game Pass does?
I mean, could that potentially?
I'm talking like five years down the.
No, you'd be talking.
Like 5 years plus.
No, you'd be at least a decade at the minimum.
Well, I mean, for it to come to fruition, but I'm saying, if they can't provide anything in the next 5 years, people are going to view pretty poorly the whole PlayStation line.
Yeah, is it
because they won't be releasing anything current?
Yeah, is it possible? Yes. Will it happen in the next decade? Absolutely not. At least from my vantage point.
I'm just wondering where they're going to go with this. I don't see them having a winning path with any of this. They just don't have anything that attracts people.
Yeah, precisely. So that Bloomberg had the article. We'll have the link to it here. But very interesting to see how that is going. And then thus far, just mentioning it quickly, Sony has spent over $1 billion to keep Bungie staff after its acquisition. So they are holding true on their claim to keep
no jumping ship, didn't fire anybody,
keeping Bungie how it is, and they're moving forward with that. So it'll be interesting to see how that relationship progresses. And
that'll probably be in their Game Pass. I mean, all these things they'll put some, but that's in every Game Pass.
Wow, what are you going to do, Brian? You're going to put Destiny 2, the free-to-play game, in your Game Pass and charge me $16 a month? Wow, what a steal!
Yeah,
I can't. I'm
so
excited.
That
can't contain myself.
I don't see the carrot. I don't see the carrot of it. The thing that's going to make me be like, all right, I'll get that.
Yes, I mean, you're talking about $16 a month is a large subscription. That is a very.
What if they
expensive
bundle it with a video streaming service? Because Sony Studios has a large set of films that they have access to. I'm just trying to think of what would sweeten the pot. If I didn't make it anything that's worth buying for $16, especially for a month for premium, when I can't think of games that I really want for that.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because as Paramount and all of these Paramount Plus and all of this other stuff, Sony doesn't have one of those. They don't have their own service. And you're right, Sony Pictures is massive. So I don't know exactly. Maybe
I'm sure that maybe if they're coming up with what are we going to do to get people to subscribe to this?
Yeah, maybe
bundle the service, make it because that's what Microsoft's doing. They're just making it to where so many things are good.
Maybe it's Disney Plus, which gives you ESPN.
Who
knows?
Partner up, get it to where they don't feel like if it's only the games they're getting, I just can't imagine unless they're doing something really cheap. But even if it's a $4.99 service, most people feel like that's not even worth.
It's not a $4.99. It's $10 minimum. Is the cheapest.
I know. Yeah. So you're going to make a decision. All right, get Game Pass for about the same price, which has 5 times as much stuff, or go with this other one. And I get all the game streaming I want and all this other stuff.
Yeah. Now,
I
guess for people,
we'll see if they can turn it around.
Yeah, I guess the only thing would be people that are fully entrenched in the Sony ecosystem. You win them over, but the goal is not to win over your own people. It's to drag in individuals from other sides of the sphere.
Yeah. Hey, Dr. Disrespect, you want to talk about him for a minute? We haven't talked about him for a little while. Yeah. He had settled his lawsuit with Twitch. Because remember, they pretty much canceled his contract.
Yeah, fired.
They didn't say why, but I think I heard, because I heard him talking about it, and I heard some hints of why I think he was actually, and I don't remember if we had mentioned this on the show, so I'll just kind of say what I heard. And this could be rumor, but it seemed to match the situation. That he pretty much was trying to negotiate with them and kind of made up some facts, as part of the negotiation, as far as there were some things already in place.
You just bend the truth a little bit during a negotiation, Brian. I mean, it's not the craziest.
And I'm trying to remember exactly what it was, but it was what was the streaming service that Microsoft had that shut down? What was the name of that thing? I don't.
Damn it! It's a blue Mixer.
Wonderful Mixer. Yes, I think what he had done is he said, Mixer has offered me this much to move there
in the negotiation. Yeah.
Mixer the next week announced that they were shutting down service, which made them realize he was lying to them, and so they canceled his contract.
Or they may have offered him,
what I understood.
Or they may have offered him that dollar amount many, many months ago, and then the times changed.
Yeah, he's still over on YouTube. Dr. Disrespect. We just can't have him on the show.
Yeah, so he's still on YouTube.
Yeah, he's still on YouTube, still doing everything. But he did say for his official announcements, I have resolved my legal dispute with Twitch. No party admits any wrongdoing. So that was the end of it. So pretty much walked away. But he got that huge contract. He got to walk away from that contract, and I think he still got all that money. So what they did is we'll pay you. So his payment is pretty much he got his contract and he got to sign with another place.
Yeah.
And making
and he says, in response to your questions, the doc will not return to Twitch. So the settlement is not bringing him back to the platform.
Yeah, it's not helping him get better feelings about them. And then Dr. Disrespect, he's going to be selling NFT beta access to his game.
Oh, what a
of course, that doesn't exist. So the round of 10,000 founder access passes for $50 a piece is what he's selling.
And see, this is precisely the problem with NFTs. The technology is great. The potential is amazing. But Brian, this is a scam. You're paying $50 for this is no different than a Kickstarter. This is no different than an Indiegogo. You are paying.
Yeah, you're making money off of something that doesn't exist.
Correct. You are buying into something that doesn't exist, which is, by the way, I will note, the whole gaming industry is always the one that is bitching and moaning about stop pre-ordering games and and then yet Dr. Disrespect comes out with this 10,000 Founders Edition passes, and this thing is going to sell out immediately. So the same people that are like, stop encouraging game companies to do me, are going to buy a NFT for a game that's not even done. So no, PH says you pay for access to the game. Yes, but the game's not ready. Why would you buy? We have talked about for years. Why are you buying access into something that's not done? Have we not learned our lesson?
Or not even, they don't even have a prototype for yet.
But see, he puts it under the guise of it's an NFT, and now it brings NFTs into more of this bad publicity that it's a scam. So you're
here's
what if this game doesn't come out?
So somebody listed a clip art rock NFT for $1 million, and they put the wrong kind of ending on it, and so it sold for 1 cent. So they feel like they lost out $1 million, but the thing is not really worth any more because it was just a clip art picture of a rock, and they put it on the marketplace for $1 million.
Yeah. Well,
there's NFTs.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's a problem with itself.
I do view NFTs as a cool thing if they use it as a way of kind of showing that you own something, right? As a proof of purchase. Now that's something I can get behind. Make an NFT a proof of purchase so that I can take my NFT and apply it to different places and claim my purchase there. Make that the NFT.
PH says, I can look at your Steam library and find 100 early access games. It's no different, really. I'm not arguing about early access. I'm arguing the point that they're using a buzzword. They're using an NFT, which is a hot thing right now, to sell something that isn't done. So not only is this not necessary, because there's nothing in this that needs to, you could just charge or just do a pre-order. I mean, it's no different. But they're bringing in a hot button term right now, which is NFT, which, and in this case, from my vantage point, being an outsider in this, following it, but being an outsider, kind of continues to play into the notion that this NFT thing is this weird thing that is very scammy and everything of that nature. I'm not saying that it is a scam. I'm not saying his game is not going to come out, but it absolutely can set that. You kind of get that vibe when you read it.
Yeah.
So
one thing I'm reading
I don't
about
see why he was doing.
Reading
this.
about his NFT. I'm reading about how he's using NFTs in this. He says access passes, because they're talking about access passes, are released in limited series using environmentally friendly NFT technology, and each with a unique theme. They will be sold for a fixed, affordable price based price to approved applicants. Once you have an access pass, it is yours to do with what you wish. This means that you are granted the exclusive variant perks above for as long as you are a holder of the access pass. These perks extend to your role within the Midnight Society as well as our games. I kind of like the idea. Okay, I take that back. I kind of like the idea of it.
The sentence didn't even leave your mouth, and you already took it back.
I know, but the problem is, okay, I see two sides of it. Let's put it that way.
So do I.
I think it could be cool because this is something. It's like something you purchased. You invest in the game. Now, this is how I would like to see investments in a game, where you purchase something that you can then purchase later that someone else can use. It'll have a limited amount of value because it's really just doing something in the game, a feature. But, it's something you can, if you're no longer going to play the game anymore, you could sell it to someone who is still playing the game. So there will still be some sort of value. And if a whole bunch of people have these and they're selling them, the value of them will be low. It'll be a true market-based cost because they can resell. There's like a 30-day lockdown period, but then you can sell like the access passes, for instance.
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting concept. I think there's cool things that with NFTs they can do, but as I said, it needs to be more of a proof of purchase, or give a perk that extends beyond 30 days. Give a perk and it'd be valuable enough as long as you own that or have it, you get some sort of a cool thing in game. I'd rather have them be visual and not actually impacting the game whatsoever, because that's where it kind of leaves the idea of being a perk and getting a play to win. I don't want that.
Yeah, I understand the premise. I just don't understand why we would encourage this when we have talked about for literally the last 7 years on this program about stopping early access, stop encouraging developers, stop throwing copious amounts of money at them for a product that's not complete. That's part number one. And part number two, it just seems a little bit like a grift right now.
Yeah.
That's just
because everybody's trying.
Well, that's
the fact
the
that somebody
problem.
put $1 million clip out rock. Okay, that shows that they're not at all serious about NFTs. They're hoping somebody clicks something and they become the news. Person purchases clip art rock for $1 million and they want to be the recipients of that, right? Okay, that's the stuff they're going to have to figure out. That's got to go away, and people got to start using it like money, because people aren't, they could put scams up there like that, but people need to realize that rock is not worth $1 million. Now, let's say you owned the right to that rock. And
Brian, worth is in the eye of the beholder.
Okay, how about this? I have an idea. What if that's kind of like purchasing stock in a game, right? You have the NFT, you own the NFT to an asset in the game, and
people
so
use the NFT. Yes, you get paid.
People playing the game, like it's a way that you can invest in a game, right? Because you put some money in and you get something out of it. Now, there would have to be limits to that, because buying something once isn't an unlimited, because like stocks. But I think you could give some perks like that to where you're incentivizing, and it is kind of an investment. I just think that there's so much mess currently.
I think, and again,
they have to figure out how these are used well.
I'm not anti-NFT. I'm not anti-anything. But what I am anti-absolutely is throwing $50 for a game that we have seen nothing about except for a name and some potential perks. As
long as everybody's okay with if nothing comes of it, right? Because we saw that in Kickstarter. Look how many none came up.
Yeah. I don't know. I've seen this too many times, and I've seen the same people that bitch about early access time and time again. Now all of a sudden freaking out about this. It's amazing.
Well, and I'm just going to we're about out of time, but I've got a whole section on NFTs. I'm just going to read you the titles because we don't need to go into them. Final Fantasy 14 won't have NFTs. Magic the Gathering NFTs project interrupted, because of lawyers. NFT marketplace halts transactions due to rampant counterfeiting. PUBG Studios is using NFTs in UGC-driven open metaverse. So many are kind of getting to where they're figuring out people are scamming people with them. A lot of issues legally. What do you actually own? But I think that you will start having a couple companies come out and offering a common sense NFT that's not $1 million piece of junk. That's more of a proof of purchase. Is a cool thing. Make it a limited edition. It's like buying a limited edition poster. If you want to buy that, go buy it. It's like a reprint, right? There's an original painting. They make reprints of those things. This is the equivalent of buying one of those, to me. It's not the original painting. It's not worth the original painting, but you know what? It's a reprint. You can look at it whenever you want.
Yeah,
place it with the same value.
I'm completely open to the idea. I've yet to see how the technology is actually being used for a useful purpose, and in this case, I stand by this. I don't care what anybody says. I see what Dr. Disrespect is doing with this, calling it NFT as a grift. No, because it doesn't have to be done through an NFT. It is using the term to grift off of the NFT. I don't see any other way. I don't see anything else.
And I'd like to see the legitimate uses. That's what I'm waiting for. Because right now I've seen so many illegitimate uses and things just kind of, them saying they're going to do something and it's all talk. People get buying all these JPEGs and stuff that really have zero value. Get to where you're starting to do legitimate things with them and show legitimate use cases. That's what I feel like they haven't shown. I haven't seen any legitimate use cases yet for NFTs. And that really feel like legitimate use. So.
I would tend to agree in some respects. And on that note, Mr. Brian, where can people find you on the interweb?
All right. If you want to find me at Brian Aldridge on Gab, Parler, Getter, all those other places. Or you can get my blog, biteoftech.com. But of course, if you want to find anything about the show, I encourage you to go to infectionpodcast.com. And on the right-hand side, join our server on Discord where you can participate in art, participate in politics talks. If you want to submit a news topic you think we should cover next week, jump on there. It's free to use. They've got a web-based desktop app, mobile app, and works pretty well. If you want to listen to the show, we've got all the different ways to do that through Twitch, YouTube, BitChute, and DLive. But we also have audio only at the lower right-hand side, and those are after the fact. So if you want to watch, go to video, and you can do that during the show. If you want to listen, once we've finished the show, you can go and listen to that particular episode and follow along with the show notes, which we'll have for every episode up until this point. And if you click on a particular episode, you can look at the links. We've got video links, articles, sources for some of the things that we're talking about. And you're more than welcome to jump in there and follow along as you listen. If you want to support us, we got the support tab up top or infectionpodcast.com/support, Prime Gaming subs, Hubble Bundle, Subscribe Star, a lot of ways that you can do that. Just check out that page and you'll be able to see those, and appreciate everybody that has supported the show. So thank you very much.
Alrighty, Brian, thank you very much for being flexible on the schedule, and we will be back at our regular scheduled time and place next Tuesday, which is March the 22nd for another episode of Infection. So, Brian, thanks as always, and we'll see you next week, all right?
Yep, see you then.
Alrighty, folks, again, thanks for joining us on this special Wednesday edition. My name is Nick Craig. You can follow me on various social media platforms by visiting nickcraig.com or nickcraig.net. If you missed any portion of this show, you can head on over to our website and check out our show notes on infectionpodcast.com. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.